All right, so behind me is the R33 GTR. This is a 1995 and it has 67,000 original verified miles. And all that plays into what was so difficult about getting this car in the first place. At first I was looking for an R32 GTR, and then the opportunity came where I could get this R33, or rather an R33 in general, for the Drivers Club. So at that point it came to a matter of getting the right car at the right time. It was really hard not to rush the process because of how much I wanted to get one, but I also had to take my time and make sure it was the right decision. So I looked through, auction sites, which was a whole nightmare on its own. Yes, they give you valuable information, but it's not everything you're looking for. So you can check them out and find that out on your own. But then I started going through collectors and private dealers, and I ended up finding this place called Craft JDM, or Craft Sports, down in Naples, Florida. And they were established in Japan for about 25 years before they started setting up shop and bringing over R32s and S13s. And this was actually one of the first batches where they had the 1995s and up, including, the R33 GTRs. So they were very transparent in the whole process. They gave me all the paperwork I needed, from import documents to mileage verification to the equivalent of a Japanese Carfax. And this thing, when we got it inspected, which was also a big thing because some dealerships or collectors, specifically one up in the northwest part, wouldn't let us send our own inspectors, and they'd make you take their word for it. So these guys were very cooperative. They were very open, and they treated it just like a dealership. So I definitely recommend them if you're trying to find your own GTR or imported JDM. Otherwise, we were able to get the car inspected, and it needed, new hoses, fluids, brakes, definitely needed brakes, and it had a little bit of rust towards the trunk area. But when we finally got it imported, I had it shipped up here, and it ended up coming up from Florida sometime around January to early February. And after that point, it showed up and the car ran, it drove great, and we brought it to countersteer, and we had this huge laundry list of stuff inspected. And like I said, it needed new fluids, hoses, belts, but we also needed a new radiator, shroud, and fan. We needed a couple other things that were necessary, but we ended up going with the brake kit, the Stop Tech upgrade kit with stainless steel lines, better pads, slotted rotors. We did the GK Tech upgrade for the fan and shroud for the radiator fan, and that gave us, I think, 60% better cooling. And I've actually noticed that when we've run the car up in the mountains, I haven't had any overheating issues, and my friend has a 370 and we have to let that cool down every couple laps. So kind of shows you where this tech was at, 26 years ago now compared to a 2014 370Z. It's just, something good going on here. They just had like the right recipe. So from there, we ended up replacing every belt, fluid, hose. We do the oil changes regularly every 2,500 to 3,000 miles. And we just put on some Ray Graham lights. And right now they're painted. We're gonna have them redone just to make sure that they're perfect. And we have 275 tires all around, some Nittos. So this thing is a lot better from where it was to where it's at. And currently we're in the middle of the tuning process. We brought it to Dylan and we put it on the dyno. We got it from 280 wheel horsepower to 330 wheel horsepower, and then we went from 240 torque to 290 torque. So the numbers are much better. We put it in R32 ECU since we couldn't crack the R33 ECU. And right now we're just working out the bugs on that, but we plan on doing the Haltech upgrade, a single turbo swap with supporting fuel mods, manifold, and Dylan's got it all worked out for us. We just have to keep taking it step by step and getting to that point. But as of now, the car is dailyable, it's enjoyable to drive. I can even take it on some back roads, and it's very well composed. It's probably the most balanced car I've ever driven, and I've driven quite a few different cars. So I really enjoy it, and I hope you guys enjoy looking at it as much as I enjoy driving it. This currently has the stock 5-speed transmission. It's got no aftermarket clutch or anything like that. It's super easy to drive. I was just telling my friend Christian that it's so simple that, if he really wanted to, he could learn how to drive on a car like this. But obviously I wouldn't suggest learning how to drive on a GTR just in case something does go wrong. With that being said, it's super smooth, super light. I've driven stock 370s and Q60s, and I would compare this to the stock clutch on those. It's super comfortable, and you usually don't have an issue with it in general. As far as like driving it in traffic or doing like a power shift, it's really forgiving. So this car builds boost at 4,500 RPM, and when there's, when you're not in 4,500, there's pretty much nobody knocking, but once you get into 4,500 RPM, you start to really see some power, and that's boost. So this car is very smooth as far as the way it distributes the power. It's just getting used to, a turbo lag, having to build up your power before anybody's really there knocking on it. Now, it's really balanced. What I like about it is you can really throw it around if you want to, and you don't have much of an issue. And the acceleration is really nice there too. And like I was saying, it's really balanced. So when you think there's gonna be body roll, there actually is no body roll. When you expect this bump that you're going over to, rock the suspension and throw you off, it just eats it like it's breakfast. It's ridiculous how good the stock suspension is. For, being 26 years old, I can't believe that it rides better than my stock Infinity suspension did, than Mason's stock 370 suspension currently does. And I think we have to accredit a lot of that to the platform. This platform is absolutely ridiculous. It's super comfortable, it's super balanced, and although I haven't had the best chance to go out and test it, I'm really been impressed with what it's had to offer so far. So in just a couple weeks, we should have everything buttoned up on this car, and it should be mountain testing at that point. And we're really going to be able to see how good the R33 chassis, platform, and everything that we've done to it is compared to where it was when we got it. I remember when we first got it, throwing back, coming around full circle now, we did the Mabry Media car release video. And it was this awesome video. We went up to Blood Mountain. We had the mountain to ourselves pretty much. The only downfall is it was very foggy. There was a lot of, there was low visibility. So it was extremely difficult to do anything other than just drive at like 30 miles an hour. But that's good because those tires were actually ride rotting. So if we pushed it, who knows what could have happened. We're very lucky that nothing happened, and I wanted to get these wheels on and the tires on as soon as possible because I knew that, dude, those tires, like I could see the side cracks in the walls, and it was very interesting, not something that you would ever really want to see. Really see that the car was made to be comfortable. It was made to be something that you would enjoy driving, but also kind of had hidden under your foot was all the boost you could really want. And God, is it addicting. You could do it all day and never get enough of it. I am waiting for the tune because once we get that tune on, we'll be looking at 330 wheel horsepower and 290 pound-feet of torque. And that's gonna be just absolutely great, just phenomenal. I really can't wait for that to come into play. But until then, just gonna play it by ear. I have to be careful not to get into boost too much because right now the engine isn't running too healthy. Apparently it comes like that from stock. So from the factory they run a little bit lean, and we have to get that tuned out. Now with that, when we get the R32 ECU figured out and put in, we'll be good to go. The issue we were having with the R32 ECU is we tuned it, everything went great, and then I drove it home and I went to the gas station to fill up the gas after being on the dyno all day, and I turned on the AC because it was hot as hell like it is today in Hotlanta. And of course, I experienced the issue where the AC compressor, I believe, came on and it killed the motor because it was too much stress on the car itself. So, or not the car itself, but on the motor to be able to turn on the regulator, I think, and the engine. So basically what it is from stock, the AC compressor or whatever the part is that I'm referring to, because I don't remember what he said it was, will come on and the computer will prevent it from killing the motor while you're trying to come back in. So what would happen is I'd turn on the, I'd turn on the AC And after I turn on the AC, I would get onto the accelerator and I'd let off, and when it decelerated, it would go all the way down, and after it went all the way down, it would, you know, of course, turn the engine off because it hit 0 RPM. And even if I, you know, tried to rev it a little bit, which I didn't really want to have to do, wasn't too confident going and driving around on that tune. So with that, the tune also brings me up to about 15, almost 16 PSI, and I have to be careful because the current bearings for the turbo are ceramic. They come like that from the factory, so they're only good for about up to 15, but even then they say you should run it on 12 to 13. And if I can do the steel upgrade, I could possibly push, you know, 400 something horsepower, but I would have to be careful and make sure I do it correctly. To be honest, I couldn't be driving a more impressive car, and if you've never had the pleasure to drive one of these, I would make sure that at some point in your life, you do whatever you can to at least get behind the wheel one time and see what it's like to really be in a piece of history that this car is. The R32 was the first take on the Skyline GTR, and it came with the R33. They had a lot of flaws in that motor at first, and they had the Gen 2 of the R32s, and they put in that long nose, and they've integrated everything mechanically that was right about the R32, and then gave you this wider, longer, more luxurious, more comfortable platform that is the 33, while also being kind of subtle. You know, the 34 is very in your face, and the 33 is just like, you don't really know what it is until you're on it. And then when you see what it is, and you realize what it does and how good it is at doing what it does, all you want is to drive it.
This is a certified